Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second day of our 3-day breakthrough. You know it, and I know it. You're here for the breakfast session right now, and I'm pretty excited about what the Word of God says on our particular reading for this morning. So we're in Hebrews chapter 5 and Hebrews chapter 6 for breakfast this morning, and I'm just going to dive right into Hebrews chapter 5. Actually, I'm not going to dive in. I'm going to tell you something first. You're doing awesome. The fact that you are on day 2 of fasting is absolutely massive. And I don't want you to get discouraged. I want you to be encouraged that you are honing in on a spiritual discipline that oftentimes is overlooked by other believers. And so, hey, great job to you. Now we can get into the passage. It says this in Hebrews chapter 5, starting in verse 11. I'm going to read 11 through 14. It says, "About this we have much to say, and it is hard to explain since you have become dull of hearing." That's not an encouraging word right there. He's going to give him a little bit of ridicule starting in verse 12. "For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of the oracles of God. You need milk, not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, since he is a child. But solid food is for the mature, for those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice to distinguish good from evil." What he's doing is he's ridiculing the church, those who are reading this particular letter, saying, hey guys, by this time, you shouldn't be acting like little kids. You shouldn't be acting like babies who live on milk. You should be processing and ingesting and getting for your sustenance solid food, but you're not able to. You should be a teacher by now, but you don't even know the basics of your faith. And he says that to the people in that particular letter, but I think that's very applicable to a lot of us today. We have done this church or Christianity thing for perhaps our whole lifetime, yet we still struggle with some of the fundamentals of the Christian faith. And the goal is for you not just to do breakthrough after breakthrough, year after year, the same issue, but rather level up and have your breakthrough this year be something, and the next year it's something different, and you keep just growing and growing and growing in your sanctification, your relationship with Jesus. Now, the question then is, how do I go from milk to solid food? And that's exactly what I want us to focus in on this morning. If you are still on milk, and for the record, all of us have milky elements of our life, areas where we can grow. How do you go from being on milk to solid food? Now, I'm going to let you in on kind of the world that we're in. We have done fairly well in getting kids off of milk into solid food. Our 5th child now is eating solid food, so we've seen the process. And they don't just all of a sudden go from milk to a T-bone steak. That would not work. That would be really, really bad for them. They would choke. It would not be a good experience. It would actually harm them to get off milk that way. In the same manner, if you were just going to say, today is the day I'm going to start taking these spiritual things more serious, good for you with your gusto on that. But in practicality, in praxis, you're setting yourself up for a moment of failure. What we have seen with our children going from milk to solid food, and what I've seen with believers going from milk to solid food, and you're catching this as an illustration right here. This is a metaphor. We're not actually talking about milk. We're not actually talking about solid food. We're talking about going from the basics to the more mature. What I've seen in our children and with believers as well is that they need somebody to guide them. That Noah, our youngest right now, the reason why he's able to process solid food right now is because we have spoon-fed him. And now he's getting to the point where he can start to grab things and put it in his mouth, and he's getting to the point where he'll be able to feed himself. He's not there yet, but he's getting closer. In the same way with us in our faith, you need to have somebody that can help spoon-feed you. And like perhaps this video has been helpful to you. Maybe it's elementary for you, and that might be because you have been walking with the Lord for a while, but this is an example of what it can look like for somebody to be helping feed you. You need to get somebody in your life that is helping to feed you as you grow. Now, for myself, I will say that I'm by no means above this. I have mentors that are pouring into my life constantly, and I would invite you to do the same. And so this morning, would you take a couple of minutes and just pray about, God, who would you send into my life to be a mentor figure? God, I know that I need people to pour into me so that then I can therefore pour into others. But Lord, give me guidance on who that would be so that I can up my game from being on milk to solid food.